Shove It Man! It's a new week on the Shove It Show, and this week starts off with my final day in my office job. YouTube is now my only job. The next step is to reach the Graceland of 100k subscribers. I don't usually pester you guys to subscribe, but I haven't asked in a while, so please do. It will help you get notified for Saturday's video, which is a bit controversial, even for the Horde. I'm expecting a few late night bricks through my window over that one. But today I'm going to carry on with my mini-series watching World Wrestling Allstars. This was a show that existed between WCW and ECW going under and TNA starting up. There are a lot of guys that you know on the show and it's pretty wacky, so enjoy. Thanks again to Caleb Robinson over on Patreon who requested this video. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up today. Let's check out the next pay-per-view for World Wrestling Allstars. So what have they been up to since the last pay-per-view in Las Vegas? Well, it's pretty much going badly. They spent the next few months after that pay-per-view cancelling tour dates claiming that their top stars were injured. I think it's hard to describe anyone in that company as a star. They kept losing champions and talent to the WWE. Despite all that, the third World Wrestling All-Stars pay-per-view takes place under the name The Eruption and takes place on April 14th, 2002. So still a few months before TNA begins. We seem to be back in Australia again, and they have a stupid fake-looking volcano. Oh, and the arena has now massively shrunk. That might just be the poor video quality, although it wouldn't surprise me if attendances have dropped off. A limo pulls up backstage. I can't believe they even afforded one. The first thing we see is a cane coming out of a car. It's Psycho Sid. JB is now on commentary of Disco Inferno, so it just keeps going downhill with JB's commentary partners. Did they really want Disco after his midget commentary on the last episode?
No, yes, go! Try to kill yourself! Oh no, he might die!
He's trying!
Do it! Fly, midget, fly!
There's a really awkward bit where the ring announcer is stumbling over his words. Someone smack this guy one. Now we have audio problems as you can't hear what the commentary team is saying. The first match is Nova versus AJ Styles in the International Cruiserweight title tournament. This belt's vacant because Eddie had the title on the last pay-per-view, but then he went back to the WWE. AJ kicks Nova all over the place, but it's Nova who hits the first big move as he drops Styles on his face. Nova also hits a step-up enziguri kick for a 2 count. AJ tries a comeback, but he's crushed with a gutbuster. Nova starts flicking his hair around and staring into space, which allows Styles to hit a spin kick. He's not on top for long and Nova crushes him with a big boot, shades of Test. And he goes up top. And he misses the Swanton Bomb. Cue Jeff Hardy. Dude, I was watching the World Wrestling All-Star show the other day, man. And this dude, Nova, he stole my Swanton Bomb finishing maneuver, man. But it didn't finish. Man, I'm going back to Carolina. And I'm going to tell my stoner friend Shannon all about you, Nova, man. The mistake allows Styles to hit the Styles Clash and it's over. A really short match for some reason. It was going along really nicely and Nova was hitting some hard-hitting moves, but it's AJ who advances. We get to see Scott Steiner stomping around backstage now. He's with Madeja, who hasn't been featured on in WWA before. The Starettes are back on this show too. They dance around. They're dressed way sluttier than the last show. It's like the management couldn't decide how slutty they wanted them to be. If Steiner was out next, it would make sense, but he isn't. Instead, we get a package showing that Jerry Lynn is supposed to be feuding with Eddie Guerrero, but that isn't happening anymore. The new World Wrestling All-Stars commissioner, Sid Vicious, comes out for a promo. I guess Brett didn't want to risk getting stuck in Australia again. This is the first time anyone's heard from Sid since he broke his leg in WCW. Sid's very happy that the crowd has cheered him. I guess you could say it's cheered him up. Sid thanks Andrew McManus, the owner of WWA, and then he immediately spits on the floor straight after. The production is really bad. I can hear the production crew talking in the background. Sid calls Scott Steiner one of the greatest talents that we've got in wrestling, period. He's going to be in a World Heavyweight title match tonight, but he'd like him to play by the rules. A Sid chants in the crowd and he thanks Andrew McManus again and then it ends. The second Cruiserweight match is up now. It's a man with a blue Mohican called Chucky. He will face Jerry Lynn, who doesn't have a blue Mohican. Instead he has his normal strands of rotting blonde hair. Chucky hits a spinning heel kick and then he springs off the ropes and drags Lynn out the ring. He quickly hits a springboard senton to the outside. Somehow that doesn't hurt Lynn and he gives Chucky a leg drop across the ropes. The commentary team take time to make fun of Chucky's haircut. Way to get a new star over, guys. Wait, Lynn hits the cradle pile driver and it's over. Why are all these matches so short? Why bother even having them? That one was literally 2 minutes. The commentary team look really sad as they discuss if Disco can hear anything in his headset. JB says they're trying their best. In the back, Puppet the Psycho Dwarf is screaming at a vicar. He tells him to get down on his knees whilst he talks to him. It's going to be another hardcore midget match tonight, just like the last pay-per-view. I wonder what the commentary is going to be like this time.
That's a human being. I know it's a midget, but it's still a human being, I think.
Puppet has a microphone and he calls them a bunch of dirty Aussies. Before he can say much more, his opponent Tio jumps him. Tio drops from the ropes to hit a headbutt to the nutsack. Yep, the commentary is pretty much the same. Disco says he doesn't know what midgets have instead of a penis. JB is talking about midget licking.
Right in whatever hell those midgets have down there.
Puppet, the ringleader of BloodyMidgets.com traveling sideshow, where they have an event called Lick the Midget. For $1, you get a free lick.
What?
Puppet slams Tio across some chairs for a 2. He tries to hit a Samoan drop, which was reversed by Tio with an inverted DDT. Then it all goes wrong, if it was ever going right in the first place. Tio tries to dive with a sunset flip, but both midgets rolled all over the mats. Later on, Tio is sent into a trash can, and Puppet dives on him with a splash from the middle rope, just a 2. Tio fights back with a running neck breaker, and he climbs up to the top. Swanton bomb. Man, Jeff Hardy would be crying in his monologue if he saw that one. Now a bin is on Puppet's head, and Tio hits him with a chair. Tio takes some time to rearrange the furniture whilst Disco talks about the midget wrestling PlayStation game that he'd like to see, just like last time. He really loved that idea, didn't he? Tio is up a ladder and he hits sort of a half elbow drop, half splash. It doesn't even dent the can. It's over. In the back, a lady is staring at her appearance in a mirror and trying to pull up her skirt as high as possible. I can't decide if she's attractive. She looks a bit creepy for some reason. Let the hawk know down below. Would you hit it with your beak or fly away with a squeak? Now we have Medeja walking along. Tio the midget's wearing Scott Steiner's hat and he slaps her ass. Up next, it's a tag match. Straight shooting Stevie Ray. Out of interest, does anyone have any interest in watching Stevie Ray without Booker? He teams up with Buff Bagwell. Their opponents are Ernest the Cat Miller. Didn't realise he ended up in this thing. And he teams up with the insane Brian Lawler. He's still doing his Too Cool gimmick at this point. Disco sounds like he's constantly making fun of the company on commentary. He knows it's bad. The match starts with a sort of dance-off. There's not much to say about this one, but I did enjoy Stevie Ray dropping Lawler on his ass. Bagwell keeps shoving the referee, but I'm not sure why. Ernest Miller seems to be the only man of the 4 who's happy to be here. It all goes wrong when Stevie kicks his own partner by accident. Lawler and the Cat hit a double rock bottom and then Lawler wins with a hip-hop drop. So far, this is the hardest pay-per-view to get through. The production is terrible, the show feels lifeless, the video quality sucks, and nothing funny is happening. Lawler and the Cat dance with the Starettes and some Australian children dance with them. This feels like a glorified house show. They do the Rikishi dance. I can't take much more of this. It goes on for ages. Of course it gets dragged on for even longer when Disco Inferno has to try and dance with them. He gets beaten up by some little children. 50 minutes of garbage so far. Oh no, it's the Funkster again. He actually cuts a good Hulk Hogan promo, but I'm just not in the mood for him at this point. Quebecer Pierre is out now. He asked the crowd to stand for the Canadian national anthem, but it's not the music, it's actually him singing it. He's interrupted by the Funkster for their match. His music is the Eye of the Tiger. Pierre clotheslines him down straight away. They keep saying that Pierre's 260 pounds. There's no way he only weighs 260 pounds. I've heard of wrestlers inflating their weights to seem bigger, but not understating it. Pierre does a press into a slam. High impact stuff here. Disco's calling him a virgin on commentary. He's just here to have a good time. Disco's playing the complete idiot and he keeps trying to figure out who the Funkster reminds him of. It gets really irritating. Talking of the Funkster, he gets a 2 count on a springboard sunset flip. Pierre hits the Funkster with a big suplex. He also hits a sit-out slam and quickly heads up top and hits a leg drop. Who'd have thought this would have been a match of the night so far? The Quebecer now hits a running powerbomb. He motions that he's going to the top. He hits a swanton bomb for... Wait, how the fuck is that not a free? The Funkster's now funking up. He drops Pierre on his face. This leads to the Funkster hitting the big boot. And like the last match, the Funkster hits the pile driver and the leg drop for the free. No idea why I didn't hate this one, but whatever. Fair play, guys. It can't all suck, can it? If you enjoy Pierre, you can catch him in Impact Wrestling. Yes, he's still a thing in 2022. Up next is a package explaining why Nathan Jones is now the World Wrestling Allstars Heavyweight Champion after winning it at a house show. Scott Steiner comes out with Medeja now. He talks about all his freaks that went down under in Australia. He says that Australian men aren't proper men, which is why all the ladies like him so much. He says his aims for the night are to win the title and beat an Australian person up. He threatens to hit people in the crowd and then out walks the front row Nathan Jones. They don't want to wait for their match, but Commissioner Sid Vicious makes them go to the back. Steiner says last time he saw Sid, he broke his leg. I'm pretty sure he broke it himself. Sid then says last time he saw Scott, he wiped his ass. He will be the enforcer for the match. Did you ever expect to see these three men together? What a match that's going to be, by the way. Sid tries to get a Nathan Jones chant going, but it doesn't work and then the segment ends. The tournament final for the International Cruiserweight belt is now. It'll be AJ Styles versus Jerry Lynn. This will obviously be one of the better matches of the night. This is the first time these two have wrestled in front of cameras in a rivalry which will play out in TNA over the next couple of years. There's a bit of a clunky start on the first few minutes of this one. As AJ jumps over Lynn in the corner, it looks like Styles is going for an arm drag, but Lynn sweeps his leg out. Styles takes a nice back bump, but then both men fall to the floor as they both try arm drags at the same time. Later, Lynn monkey flips Styles, who lands on his feet, and then Lynn whacks him. He hits a back breaker for a 2 count. Next up, a submission hold I haven't seen for a while as Lynn does a surfboard. He can't make Styles tap. Styles loves his flips in the early days as he counters a German suplex and hits a big jumping hurricanrana. Lynn again shuts him down for Total Whirl. Disco is making fun of Styles on commentary now, saying he looks like he'd make a good ping pong player or a bobsledder. What surprises me is the crowd are chanting boring at this match. This happens as Lynn and Styles slightly botch the inverted DDT. Styles doesn't have much of a personality at this point, he's literally a blank canvas. AJ gets a 2 on a super kick. Lynn turns that around by suplexing Styles overhead into the corner. Later on, Jerry Lynn is busted open by Styles when he hits him with a flip dive to the outside. They both get many 2 counts on each other. I think Lynn gets annoyed with it eventually because he absolutely crushes Styles with a German. Lynn comes close again with a sit-out powerbomb. What happened next shocked me though. Lynn hits a devastating cradle pile driver and somehow Styles kicked out. How? Styles then blocks a DDT attempt and hits his finisher, the Styles Clash, but Lynn kicks out of that. Shortly after, Styles smashes Lynn off the top rope and he hits the spiral tap for the win. AJ wins his first gold on camera. He even gets fireworks. They must have thought a lot of him because they didn't have much money to waste at this time. As he celebrates to his screaming rock music, I reflect on the match. It was missing any character work from Styles, he was just so bland at this point. That would come from him in the future, but it did show TNA that he had a lot of promise. Coming up next, it's the only match which has continuity on this entire pay-per-view show because these two actually had a good match on the last pay-per-view. It's a cage match. The first man is Devon Storm, who has pretty much been the MVP of World Wrestling Allstars. He's had 2 good matches so far. Can he make it 3 in a row? He takes on Sabu. He thinks about climbing the cage, but then he can't be bothered. This one will be pinfall only. Right off the bat, Devon Storm throws Sabu with a German release. He tries a suplex which Sabu skips out of and hits a springboard DDT. He also hits a springboard ass to the face. The cage is used for the first time now as Storm powerbombs Sabu into one side and then runs and powers him into the other. Nice. Sabu doesn't look like he's going to last long. He gets drop kicked into the cage. He's busted open. Sabu continues to get destroyed. He's hit with a frog splash. Great match so far, but Disco keeps repeating words on commentary which is really annoying.
Bleeding and start bleeding profusely.
That's what
bleeding profusely. Well, I gotta admit, and Sabu's bleeding profusely. Well, Sabu, look at this. He's bleeding profusely. Wow.
We talked about that before.
And Sabu bleeding profusely.
Both men bleeding profusely.
Profusely bleeding. Both of these guys. 2 animals going at it just bleeding profusely.
A top rope Frankensteiner gets Sabu back in it. He has a weapon from somewhere and he starts stabbing Devon Storm in the head. The match continues being hard hitting. Devon Storm hits a top rope Northern Light suplex. Storm has a chair now and it's not going well for Sabu. He's driven into it and then Northern suplex while Storm holds the chair. He tries to roll up Sabu but he's kicked off into a weapon in the corner. This gives Sabu a chance and we get some of the typical Sabu chair related offense that we all know and love. Then out of nowhere Sabu springs to the top of the cage but he misses his moonsault. Can't believe he'd do that on a pay-per-view like this. He did it so quickly it was like blink and you miss it. Devon Storm sees his opportunity and he hits a Death Valley driver on a steel chair. Both men are having a contest to see who could die first. Storm climbs out the cage now just to fetch a guardrail and put it across some steps. He goes through the cage door but Sabu drop kicks it in his face. Sabu then hurls himself out the cage but barely connects. I felt that one. Sabu has a table but he's dropped gut first on the barrier. He dies soon after because Devon Storm suplexes him on the barrier from the setup earlier and he gets all trapped up in the steel. We now have 3 tables set up. How am I seeing a match like this on this pay-per-view? It feels so out of place. Storm DDTs Sabu on the outside and he puts him on the double table. He whacks him with a steel chair for good measure. Oh god, Devon Storm climbs back into the ring and starts to climb the cage. He flies through the air with a splash, putting Sabu through the 2 tables. How the hell is this one still going? They're back in the ring now with another table. Storm slams the door into his opponent's head. Devon Storm starts assaulting Sabu with a chair. He hypes up that he's about to hit a final knockout shot when out of nowhere Sabu throws a fireball in his face. It might just be the video quality, but I didn't see that one coming. Storm is now set up on the table. Sabu is climbing the cage again. His moonsault doesn't break the table. He just says screw it, he climbs up the cage again and hits a leg drop. That's how this one ends. I've never seen someone hit 2 cage dives in quick succession. This match had no right to be so crazy. I like to call these sleeper matches, not because they're boring but because people slept on them. This is a match which was crazy and I've never even heard of it. You need to find this one and watch this one in full. It's crazy throughout, great stuff. This might be one of my new favourite matches, and Devon Storm continues his role of WWA MVP. Shame this wasn't on a bigger show for a belt, because it would have been elevated by it. So we go from that to something completely different, an evening gown match. Madeja, Scott Steiner's freak, will be facing Queen Bee of some sort of Australian magazine model. They shove each other, they catfight, they expose their ass cheeks. Madeja eventually says screw it and kicks her opponent down. Queen Bee fights back with a jawbreaker and a couple of her own kicks. Madeja's almost completely exposed and the crowd boo when she isn't. Moments later, Madeja strips her opponent to win the match. Oh no, the midgets are back. One of them spears Madeja. They both strip Madeja, adding new meaning to the term big bad booty. It's all over, they all run away. It was harmless, it was just 2 minutes and both girls looked good. At least I think they did. It's hard to tell with this quality. All that's left to watch now is potentially one of the worst main events ever. Seems to be a trend in World Wrestling Allstars. It wouldn't surprise me. It's also going to be hard following that Devon Storm Sabu match. On second thoughts, maybe they should have had the women strip for a couple minutes more. Oh look, Madeja is back again, but she has her clothes back now. But this one's all about Scott Steiner. He takes on the champion Nathan Jones. This is something I don't know if I want to watch. A lot of people pointed out in the last video that Jones is a bit like Kane when he first unmasked. Steiner wipes his ass on the Australian flag. Jones then starts the match, but he can't knock down Steiner and then he gets flipped off. This fires Jones up, who takes him down a few times with some basic offense. The best bit is Steiner sending Jones out the ring, and it looks like someone hits the fast forward button at the same time. Jones quickly comes back in with a springboard clothesline. He also hits a big boot and gets a 2. Steiner gets annoyed and powers him out the ring again. On the outside of the ring, Jones hits the crowd barrier hard. He makes it back into the ring where Steiner gives him a back breaker. Scott Steiner drops his elbow, he's feeling himself now. Jones does try a comeback, but he's given a belly to belly. Jones again tries to get the crowd to rally behind him, but he's shut down with a Northern Lights suplex. Randomly now, Steiner puts on a Scorpion Deathlock. Jones uses his long body to make the ropes. Steiner locks him in a bear hug now for a while. Jones tries to smash his massive head into Steiner's, but he's thrown overhead with a suplex. Just after, Jones finally does something. He hits a big spinning side slam and the crowd are finally awake as they cheer on their hero, Nathan Jones. He makes the decision to go to the top rope, but he falls short and his clothesline looks terrible. I actually feel bad for him. This isn't a bad match and the crowd was starting to like him. Jones wants to hit a choke slam now, but Madeja makes the save. The ref is distracted and Steiner smacks Jones with the belt. Scott Steiner covers him with his feet on the ropes, but it's still not over as Jones kicks out. Scott Steiner goes after Sid now, who's been more and more vocal as this match goes on. Jones almost wraps Steiner up in a small package. He almost does it again with a backslide, but Steiner gets out of it, but then Jones cripples him with a chokeslam. Madeja takes the referee. Sid wants to powerbomb Madeja in retaliation, but a bunch of geeks stop him. Steiner again uses the belt. He locks on the Steiner recliner and Nathan Jones passes out for game over. Steiner is the new world champion. That match was surprisingly better than expected. Surely Nathan Jones' best ever match. Yes, he slipped on that clothesline, but nothing else went wrong and the crowd had bought into him. Also, one of the better Scott Steiner matches I've seen from his Roid Rage era. Sid challenges Steiner to a match in the future for the belt, with Steiner screaming he'll break his leg again. As you can probably imagine, this match would never happen. Well, all things considered, just skip the first hour of this show and it's actually a very enjoyable watch. I'm in shock. The Funkster vs Pierre was okay. I enjoyed Lynn vs Styles, Sabu vs Crowbar was amazing, and I even enjoyed that main event. Let's call it a day there whilst I'm still in a good mood. But let me know down below if you want me to complete this mini-series, there's 2 pay-per-views left. And from what I know, the next one has a terrible main event. And if you don't agree with that, I'll smack you like it's meant.